What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson. Here with my partner, Jack Markowski. I'm coming to you live from John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, Virginia. It used to be a fortress. This was a place the Virginia Cavaliers did not lose in, but they have now. The Panthers snap a 23-game home winning streak for the Cavaliers with a 74-63 win in Charlottesville. This was a really remarkable win for a lot of reasons, not just I think the setting, the hype that was around it, the timing of it, but just the way Pitt did it. I mean, they dominated this second half. They really strangled Virginia. They beat them in a very Virginia way, I thought, with their defense, with some efficient shot making down the stretch and by sharing the ball. Jack, did you ever think that not only would this team, having won 6 of 7 games in a row, that they would be vaulting up the standings in this way, that they'd be in position to, and we'll get to this a little later, perhaps earn an NCAA tournament bid?
I mean, if we were having this discussion a month ago, honestly, I think the answer is no. Like, they came off those 2 double-digit losses to Duke and Syracuse at home before the road game against Duke. And I think that's where everything flipped. You saw a change in their energy, their spirit, and really how they played together. They've won 7 of 8 since that moment. The freshman guards have matured. They've improved, developed. Hinson has become even more of a threat, in my opinion. Leggett has bounced back from that injury and become, one of the best sixth men in the conference. And also, they're one of the best defensive teams in the conference, like you alluded to. And they're one of the hottest teams in the ACC. And now you look at their performance against Virginia, just starting on the offensive end, where I think that's where a lot of their issues coming in. That's sort of where you expected them to come from. Virginia has that pack line defense that really forces you to play from the perimeter, and they just knock down 3 after 3 after 3 all night. So I think Capel's game plan was fantastic. Everybody stepped up, made plays. And really, Pitt wasn't finishing at the rim like Virginia's defense is designed to force offenses into doing, but the ball movement was fantastic. They didn't turn the ball over. Even Federico and Diaz-Graham really combined to play a pretty solid game against Virginia, who's undersized. And it was surprising that they came away with a double-digit win. It wasn't expected, but honestly, this team, I think, can compete with anybody in the conference at this point. They've shown the ability, especially on the road, to step up in those big moments. So, I mean, they've risen up the ACC standings, and, they're playing so well now that I think that this is just, it's going to keep on rolling. They have to keep on rolling if they want to get to where they want to get to, if they want to get to where they want to be. Yeah, I mean, I think it was super impressive. I would argue it's their most impressive win of the season, even over Duke. So, yeah, just another great performance by them.
Yeah, you mentioned that Syracuse game, and I remember pretty specifically after that game, the vibes were incredibly low. People left early. There were Pitt fans filing out of the Pete really early. This team just couldn't notch a win at home. They were just down, and they looked like a team that had run out of gas. Just in general. And I remember one of the visiting Syracuse writers, they said, oh man, nothing and doesn't get any easier from here. Like, this team's got to go down to Duke. They got to still play Virginia on the road. They got to take on Wake Forest at home. They got to play them twice. There was just every reason to believe that this team would collapse, and that they had really no reason to believe that there was a comeback possible. The question was not how can it get better. It was how much worse can it get? And they have completely turned that around in a huge way. They've done it the hard way, really, by winning on the road, by beating these top 25 teams and Virginia is a team. I mean, I know they've won 2 in a row against the Cavaliers, but this is a Virginia team that had really dominated Pitt going back to when Pitt first joined the ACC. So they are doing all of the little things. They are staying mentally tough. They are winning in the most difficult environments possible, and they are having fun doing it. It is remarkable. It is surprising. And I think, you brought up the Duke win. The Duke win was interesting. The Duke win was back and forth. It was kind of in doubt for a lot of that game. And I mean, Pitt wasn't leading by double digits for most of this game, but, it felt like they were always in control. Save for a couple of Virginia runs. I mean, they really stepped on Virginia's throats a little bit in the second half, and they made this a little bit of a blowout at a certain point. I think they were up by as many as 14 in the second half. Yeah, up by 14 with 3 minutes left. That was their largest lead of the game. I mean, it was anticlimactic in a lot of ways. You know, you felt like the entire time that Pitt was going to it was going to come down to one last shot. It was going to come down to one last possession. No, Pitt just steamrolled them in the final minutes, showing a lot of maturity that we definitely don't see from this team earlier in the year. I mean, you talk about the finishes to both halves. It looked like things were really going to unravel for them at the end of the first half, but Blake Hinson hits a huge three. Ishmael Leggett, or no, excuse me, it was Guillermo Diaz-Graham. It was a young guy. It was a guy who really hadn't been playing all that much, but he comes in and he hits a huge three. Then Ish Leggett comes up with a steal and makes two confident free throws after a flagrant foul. I mean, and then the way that they closed out that second half and really put this game away, just the demonstrations of maturity, the demonstrations of in-season growth are extremely remarkable, and they're not something that I thought we would see. It feels like overnight, but it was kind of overnight. I mean, just the difference between how they finished the Syracuse games, how they played in the big moments of the Syracuse game versus what they did just days later down in Durham and have carried on through this long winning streak is really remarkable. And, you know, I think a lot of people are inclined to look at it as, oh man, if they just hadn't dropped that Missouri game, if they just hadn't dropped that first Clemson game, think about where they'd be. If they had, you know, been able to complete that comeback against Miami, think about where this team would be. But I think my advice would be to just enjoy the ride right now. I mean, like, they are playing as well as, I mean, let's be honest, anyone in the country. I mean, we talked about Virginia's 8-game winning streak. They're 23 in a row at home, but specifically the 8-game winning streak, and talking about them as someone who's playing as well as anyone in the country. This was kind of a battle for, I don't know, the right to be the hottest team in the ACC, the right to get back onto the bubble. And this felt like a heavyweight fight, and Pitt came out on top. So really, you know, stunning. I think especially the way they won was really stunning, but a huge win in just about every way possible. And it was really made possible because of a guy like Blake Hinson. Another really vintage Blake performance. He was knocking on the door of setting another career high. This is I believe the second highest scoring game of his career, 27 points, 11 of 19 from the field, 5 of 13 from three, 4 rebounds as well. But the scoring really jumps out. And what did you make of Hinson's night? And what have you made of the last few games, really, how he's kind of carried this offense and been the superstar that we always knew he was?
Yeah, I mean, just over his past 5 games, he scored at least 16 points in each of them. I think tonight, one of the most impressive things about his performance, especially in the first half, was he was getting to the rim. Like, I think especially when you look back at how he played last year, he was more of a catch and shoot guy, I felt like, when he would drive to the rim. He drew a lot of offensive fouls, or was called for a lot of offensive fouls. And you saw him back down a guy like Ryan Dunn, who's one of the best defenders in the ACC, if not the country. Got some easy layups, you know, used his strength to really get inside and get easy looks at the rim. And then, of course, his shooting from deep. I mean, he was 5 of 13 on the game. He was 7 of 10 overall in the second half down the stretch. The Panthers go as he goes. For the most part, he's one of the most dynamic scorers in the ACC, and he's their emotional leader. You know, like, I think he brings so much energy, so much veteran leadership. He's really stepped up in that department this year on a younger team, and he's indispensable. They wouldn't be near where they are right now if it wasn't for him, the way that he's played recently and really all season. So you can't say enough about the way that he stepped up, especially on the road. You think about the Duke game in particular, along with Virginia. So, I mean, he's been one of the best players in the conference, and he's really been the leader of this resurgence for the Panthers.
Yeah, I love what you said about Blake playing on the road, because I love watching him play on the road. I mean, you think about not just the Duke game, but the West Virginia game as well. And then tonight, too, this guy lives for the moment. And I think this team takes after him in that way. He gives them an edge, he gives them an attitude, and he gives them a swagger that they use to win games, to literally to win games. You know, when Jeff Capel talks about not blinking, I think that just comes from confidence. And I think that trickles down from Blake, who is never not confident in himself. And he gives that confidence to everyone else on the floor and to everyone else on the roster. He gives them belief, both in part because of his shot making. It feels like he is always going to be able to shoot you out of a mess. But he has that same confidence in everyone else. And everyone talks about it to a man on this team. They talk about what Blake does for them to lift them up, to give them some confidence, and to keep them engaged and locked in and focused and believing in themselves. And I think this team just kind of bouncing off of what Hinson does, they love to play the role of the villain. They love walking into an opposing building and trying to come out with a win and do it with a little bit of an attitude. I mean, he hit the three, I believe, to put them up 14, and he's skipping down the court. He's waving saying goodbye to the fans, and Jalen Lowe is joining him doing that as well. I mean, it's just hilarious watching him play with so much joy and play with so much of an attitude and play with so much of a swagger, because while it's intangible, and a lot of his success comes from his pure talent, I think it's pretty obvious that his confidence and his attitude has a big role and plays a big part in why this team has been so successful recently, and even going back to last year. And speaking of Jalen Lowe, I mentioned him. He had another strong game. I thought Bub Carrington played well as well. Ish Leggett, another double-figure scoring game, despite doing it somewhat inefficiently. He got to the free throw line a ton, and he rebounded. Bub Carrington, only 9 points, but 8 rebounds and 6 assists. And I thought he defended at a really high level, in the same way that Lowe and Leggett did as well. I mean, what can you say about these guards? It felt like a very complete effort, and one that they needed really badly against a veteran and undersized Virginia team that really lives through its guards.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, Lowe was one of their primary shot makers all night. He was 5 of 11, 2 of 3 from deep, made some tough looks. And I think it's just super impressive the way that his offensive game has developed. He struggled to shoot the ball early. I know part of that was because of an injury, but he's just done a complete 180. And then when you move to Carrington, he was hot early. He hit a couple of threes in the first half. Then he sort of slowed down shooting wise, but he made an impact in other ways. Like you said, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and his defense was spectacular all night. And then Leggett too. I mean, he's been one of their defensive stoppers all season. Like Carrington, he had 4 offensive rebounds and 8 in total, like Carrington in that regard as well. And just the 3-guard rotation has the ability to compete with any, I mean, I would say in the nation, that might be a little bold, but they just did a great job. And then, moving to how they defended McNeely in particular, who came into the night as the nation's top 3-point shooter in terms of percentage. They fought around screens. They didn't get caught in them. It's easy to lose a catch and shoot threat like McNeely, when he's in motion all the time. And Pitt never let up. I mean, I think they did a great job of closing out on the perimeter. They neutralized him, and that was the key to their whole defensive performance. Because when a guy like McNeely gets hot, Virginia can stack points up against you. So, yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about that. They did a good job guarding Beekman. He had his moments in the paint, but overall, they outplayed one of the better backcourts in the conference. They just continue to develop and step up, and it's been super impressive all season.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned, the team growing up, it seems like overnight, and it's kind of come from, I feel like, those 2 freshman guards and then Leggett kind of supporting them along the way. I mean, I do want to make sure we shout out Bub Carrington, because I think he's kind of changed how this team attacks and how this team plays. He can score, and we all know that. We know that he can get to his spots and get shots up. I don't think that's how Pitt reaches its best form. I think this kind of game where he's maybe flirting with double digits, where he's up to 12, 13 points, but is rebounding really effectively and defending at a really high level. I think he can be such a spectacular defender, and he is a really good defender right now, but he also had 6 assists, and I believe not more than 1 turnover, I want to say. Oh, he had 3 turnovers, 2 in the first half, but only 1 in the second half as well. I think Carrington as a playmaker and as a defender and as a distributor is how this team really kind of unlocks its best self. He allows Lowe to score, allows Hinson to do the things. He's setting those guys up instead of hunting his own shots. And all the credit in the world to him. I think his shot selection has gotten so much better. He's playing with, it seems like, more confidence and security, and he is contributing a lot more to winning in my eyes, even though he's maybe not scoring at the same level that he did. And like you mentioned, I mean, their entire backcourt, the defensive effort was spectacular. Talking to Guillermo Diaz-Graham after the game, it was funny. He said, yeah, we love games like this because the plan was to not allow our guards to get screened. Like that was the one thing that they needed to do. Guards could not get screened, and they had to fight tooth and nail to get over Virginia, who's a really solid fundamental team. They're very fundamentally sound, so that includes screens, and that includes playing really hard in the offensive end and doing the dirty work. And Pitt did an excellent job of getting over top, of refusing to be denied on the defensive end, and that starts with Carrington, Lowe, and Leggett just playing really tough and playing with energy throughout the entire game, and just always kind of being locked in on the task at hand. Like I said, that's part of why they kind of beat Virginia at their own game in a kind of Virginia-y way. They suffocated them, and it started, I thought, with the backcourt defense. And Diaz Graham said it was kind of an easy night for him because the guards did so well getting over screens, and they didn't need help on the pick and rolls, and that makes the front court's life so much easier. Look, here we are, Jack. The Panthers are 16-8 overall. They're 7-6 in conference. They are over 500 for the first time in conference play. And you ask everyone. I mean, you just take one scroll down Twitter, and you'll see about 6 or 8 national college basketball reporters telling you that Pitt is back on the bubble. That seems to be the talk of the town now, is that the Panthers have played their way back into NCAA tournament position. Do you buy that? And do you think this is a team that is deserving of a spot in the NCAA tournament this season?
I would say that they're playing like one right now, without a doubt. Just the work that they've done, 7 out of 8. They were sort of in no man's land, I guess you could say, before this game, and then a win, another ranked win, which makes it 2 on the season, which most teams can't say, especially where Pitt is on the bubble. They have the formula to continue to perform at a high level. You have a go-to guy like Hinson, that backcourt rotation that can compete with any team in the nation. They're a strong rebounding team, and theoretically you have a defensive anchor inside with Federico. So, I think that they have a real chance to continue to play their way into tournament contention. They still have work to do. There's 7 games left in the regular season. They're 16-8. You probably, I would say the minimum that they would have to win is 4 or 5. And then you do a little bit more work in the ACC tournament. But I mean, this wasn't even, on anybody's radar a couple of weeks ago. So I think that's a testament to how they're playing. They still have 2 humongous quad 1 opportunities on the road against Wake Forest and Clemson in the future. They have a pretty doable home schedule. They can't afford to slip up there. They jumped up to number 56 in KenPom tonight. They're going to see a pretty sizable jump in net and their predictive metrics, one would think. So listen, they have to just keep stacking wins. I think if they continue to play like they have, and there's no reason to think that they won't, then I don't see any reason why they can't be, in the field for a second straight year, which is honestly remarkable to say. Absolutely.
I mean, after the first, 5 years of, was it 4 or 5 years of Jeff Capel before last season? I think it was 4, because his first season was
2004. Yeah.
Either way, those first few years of Jeff Capel turning into what these past 2 years have been is unbelievable. It's hard to kind of wrap your head around when you look at the bigger picture and just where this program was coming from. I agree with you. I mean, it's kind of too early to say. I mean, there's so many moving parts, and if the season ended today, I'm not sure Pitt would really make the bubble or would make the field. Excuse me. I'm not even really sure if they'd be that close to the bubble. But look, the arrow is pointed way up, and they, like you said, they have the hardest part of their ACC schedule behind them. And they've got the task now becomes avoiding a slip up, like you said, instead of, trying to earn those big time wins, if that makes any sense. I mean, you would be hard pressed to find any team in the country with a pair of top wins as impressive as winning on the road at Cameron Indoor Stadium and winning on the road at John Paul Jones Arena against 2 ranked ACC teams. It's a unique situation, but Pitt is playing their best basketball at their best time, and the task does become significantly easier now. You took full advantage of your biggest opportunity of the season to lift yourself up, to let you play some even more meaningful basketball. I don't know what the exact magic number is, but I think if this Pitt team climbs to 20 wins when you've got 2 wins like at Duke and at UVA and even home against Wake Forest, and then you give yourself the chance to play for something more in the ACC tournament. That's the thing we're not really focusing on, I think, is that they keep playing the way they are right now. They will have chances to log some more marquee wins. They will see Duke again. They probably will see North Carolina again. They could see Virginia again. They'll have chances to stack even more impressive wins on top of each other. So they're rolling right now, and the task becomes just keeping it rolling. It's not like they've got to play beyond anything that they've done so far. They don't need to be better than they were tonight. They don't need to be better than they were at Duke. They don't need to do anything harder than winning in those places. It's just taking care of business at home, winning the games you're supposed to, and just hoping that some other teams fall off the bubble and hoping for a little bit of good luck. we'll see how that all shakes out. The Panthers take on Louisville this weekend. They'll try to keep it rolling again. But we are logging off. We're signing off from a massive win in Charlottesville, Virginia. Like I said, the Pitt Panthers, 74-63 winners over number 21 Virginia. We appreciate y'all tuning into the Inside Pitt postgame report. I'm Steven Thompson. That's Jack Markowski. We appreciate y'all tuning in, and we will see you all next time.